Manosphere influencers and manosphere influence in general is probably filled with some of the most toxic energy, not just on the internet landscape, which is ironic to say, but also in real life. Yesterday, as of the making of this video, we probably saw one of the clearest examples of this coming from one of the top manosphere influencers themselves, Sneako. And I don't say that respectfully at all. The man, the meme, the cuck himself. Sneako is a person that I personally have been wanting to be very vocal about for quite a while, as the way he carries himself online is incredibly disingenuous. Not just that, but he is also a complete and utter fraud when it comes to his views and beliefs that have affected a massive amount of young men and boys. Something that I want to talk about first and foremost is this clip that came from Sneako's live where he happens to meet a few of his young impressionable fans, and well, let's just say that these kids didn't behave in this constructive and well-structured way that he preached about during his Manosphere red-pilled escapades.
Andrew Tate! Fuck the woman! Fuck the woman!
What? No, wait. We love women. We love.
As we can see in this video, which quickly turns bad, these kids probably beneath the age of 14 seem to be pretty big fans of Sneako, but instead of these kids meeting Sneako properly, you know, shaking his hand, introducing themselves as any good man should, they try to impress him by spewing some toxic misogynistic bullshit. Look, I'm not a leftoid by any means, but regardless of beliefs, I feel like every person is entitled to respect regardless of who or what they are, unless they are furries or maps, of course, but we are not going to talk about that. Let me get specific and preachy and say that despite what you may believe in this modern era where men and women are incredibly divided and there is a lot of discourse and negativity between all of us, we shouldn't outright hate each other. It's very clear that they're just latching on to some very extreme, probably edgy joke. I mean, I hope it's a joke. You know how some of us were as kids saying provocative bullshit? They're probably spewing this bullshit to get into Sneako's good graces. But we can clearly see that Sneako himself is getting a bit uncomfortable by these kids' actions. Actions that he may or may not have fueled indirectly by him embracing manosphere rhetoric and then parroting those opinions. I don't understand why he's surprised, really. I mean, who would have thought that when you teach an audience of young, impressionable, internet-raised kids a bunch of toxic ideals and somewhat far-rightish ideologies, that they'd regurgitate that bullshit in the most toxic and unappealing way imaginable? I mean, kids and teenagers are very impressionable. It may not be Sneako's direct fault that these kids are behaving this way, probably not at all even. These kids probably know Andrew Tate and connect Sneako to Andrew Tate in good light, and decided to go up to him to get recognition from a somewhat prominent figure on the internet. But it does not help that he constantly spouts and preaches manosphere rhetoric, which will leave an impression on kids who, as he puts it, are probably lost in this modern society. The biggest issue is probably the fact that kids in general are edgy and take shit in the most extreme way possible for the sake of being provocative and bait reactions. There's more to this video though that really puts into full display the type of people that Sneako is an idol to.
We love women.
But not like transgenders.
Yes, sir. We love everybody.
Okay.
No.
All gay
Yeah, merch. Preach. What have I done?
Can I get in the video? Fucking talk. Can I get in the video?
If you thought the I hate women part was bad, they continue to be very hateful towards LGBT people. Shout out to this kid in the back here, by the way, because while they're out here saying this cringe ass shit, this dude just nopes the fuck out and cringes himself. It's one thing to say I hate women. I know when I was younger, like 13, I would make edgy jokes like, haha, that's why women belong in the kitchen. But this is something completely out of left field. The way these kids just so casually, without flinching, without studying, without even thinking about the repercussions of saying anything, the way they just spew this bullshit is insane. Some people will argue that they're just kids, and when they were kids, they too would say edgy things, and I agree to an extent. But when I was growing up and actually surrounded myself with people, the vast majority of kids, even the edgy type of kids, didn't say anything or any bullshit like this. Of course, there were a few here and there, but the majority of kids weren't spewing bullshit to this extent. I don't know who you were surrounded by as a kid, but the vast majority of kids will probably not behave like this publicly. To claim that this is just kids being kids is insane, which leads me to my next point. After Sneako faced ridicule for this video, he had something pretty questionable to say. They are children and obviously joking. This is how I was at 12. But if it sounds egregious to you, blame the pride flags in their classrooms. Blame the media for emasculating men. It's your fault for forcing an obvious agenda, not these kids. Boys will be boys. First, let me say that hyperbolizing the effect LGBT culture actually has in schools to justify them saying some foul, despicable shit in its own is an absolutely horrible thing to do. Even if teaching children about this acceptance were as widespread or as extreme as people claim it to be, which it's not, majority of schools have strict rules and monitor conversations about things like politics, religion, and ideologies so that kids can focus on education at hand. And to be fair, schools modern day do absolutely suck, but kids are not driven to be hateful, spiteful, or or foul because of the things they are being shown in school. Even if this claim were true, kids learn how to be toxic and negative from the people they model themselves after, such as their parents, their idols, or their friends. So yes, it is egregious. This is an absolutely foul claim to make, and it's absolutely bullshit because you can't justify hateful rhetoric. And then he says, it is your fault for pushing an obvious agenda. Look, while I agree that everyone and their moms do push a foul agenda in this era, that is not an excuse to defend or even dismiss this toxic behavior. These kids need to be educated to think freely and for themselves, which is ironic to say because these kids are behaving this way because they follow the agenda you and various other manosphere or toxic influencers push out themselves onto them. You play into and preach these toxic, anti-woke, somewhat extreme, and I say extreme very lightly, ideas that benefit your bottom line. It benefits you as an entertainer, as an influencer, or whatever you want to call yourself. You yourself even admitted to that grift and chased this red pill trend to get clout and a wide audience.
IRL streaming is what I want to do now. There's only so long, you can only do this for so long. Like, how much can you really talk about? Yeah, dating coach, that's hilarious. But yeah, it's like, it's just so much more fun. I can't even lie. And let's be honest, the red pill is dying. It's over. It's over because like there was a lot of hype around this, like, oh, the Matrix, bro, how do we make it out? And then like there's this excitement, there's hype around it, and I got in at the right time, hit the wave at the right time. You know, I was red pill raging when the red pill was blowing up, so it was perfect. You know, screaming at a camera, wake up, wake up! And then now, like, okay, you know. Live life now. Can't be screaming at a camera about Satan every single day.
You are guilty of this agenda bullshit as well. Also, another thing that really irked me about this tweet was that old-fashioned boys will be boys remark. Look, by no means am I a leftoid or even a rightoid. To be honest, I don't like labeling myself as anything because I mainly follow interests that I think would benefit everyone as a whole. While some would say this is centrist, I think the vast majority of people on this earth would benefit from ideas and goals presented by all sides. Getting this out of the way, I have to say that justifying or dismissing these kids' behavior by saying boys will be boys is a horrible and dangerous practice. You cannot allow someone to get away with foul behavior, as it would only reinforce the idea that they won't cause harm or get in trouble for doing toxic things. And this goes to everybody. Everyone should be held accountable for their actions. But Sneako wouldn't know about any of this because despite him preaching ideologies that if taken improperly could rot the brain of not just kids but many people, he still doesn't know that he is somewhat responsible. There is a conversation to be had here. Creators themselves are not solely to blame for the actions that other people take. Obviously, there are many obstacles to traverse when it comes to shielding impressionable minds away from what could potentially be a bad influence. Parents themselves have to be more liable and responsible for teaching their kids what is and what is not a right way to behave. When kids don't have good parental guidance or even good role models in their lives, they will flock to what they can idolize to better understand what they think is the best way to approach life and how to hold their values. But of course, there are limitations to this. The reason I say Sneako is someone responsible is because there is only so much a parent, or anyone for that matter, can teach someone else. People have free will. Kids also have free will. They are not entirely blank canvases. They have a decent ability to think for themselves and choose what they, in their innocent and curious minds, is right or acceptable. Parents can teach kids all of the critical thinking skills, all of the right moral values. They can teach a kid how to be the best person in the world. Parents can censor terrible and sensitive topics, content, politics, and issues from kids. They can do the best damn job any parent could ever do. But unless that kid is isolated from the world, people have the ability to choose what they'd rather listen to. Now, this is not a hard concept to grasp. You can teach a person to be well-mannered, but if they go out into the real world, start making friends, start hearing other opinions, and then are exposed to the modern media, they can form their own conclusions and follow the behavior of their peers like all of us have. Let's be real, we all had a point in time where we thought we knew better than our parents. I know I definitely did, and I decided to act in the way that I thought was appropriate. So there's for sure a level of accountability that Sneako has to be aware of. In this situation, I can tell that he wanted to argue against these kids' negativity, but he just gets caught hella off guard, and I can just tell that he didn't want to go against the things he preached in the past. If he had just had a calm discussion with these kids, because of the way they admire him so much, maybe, who knows, he could have potentially taught these kids a better way to go about life. Would they have listened to him? Probably not. They probably would have called him a lame geek for not affirming their bullshit. But it still would have been infinitely better to properly teach these kids the right ideals than to let them continue to be even more and more degenerate. But of course, Sneako has to still keep up this grift so that he can still be relevant in this new group of cloud goblins, so he will not back down from this clearly false wannabe alpha male persona. That's all I got for today. I just wanted to talk about Sneako and have a conversation about accountability and how the action influencers take online can absolutely have an effect on others, even if someone is there to intervene. Thanks for watching, everyone. I love you all. Later.